Packers fans, stay up to date on all of your Packers news this season via our newsletter. You can sign up for the PackersNews.com and more Journal Sentinel newsletters by clicking on the link in the brief field of this video.
Packers fans, welcome into the Green 19 podcast from JS Online and PackersNews.com. I'm Kassidy Hill, joined as always by Tom Silverstein and Ryan Wood here from our Lambeau Field office. For those not watching us on video and on audio, I've been told I still don't sound like the same person. I promise this is me and not an alien snatcher body version. Although, wouldn't that be kind of cool if it was like, you know, Freaky Friday and I was actually somebody else?
You can't fake that accent, Cassidy. That is authentic accent. It's not fakeable.
Well, that being said, we have been going for 40 seconds, and I've already taken us off the rails. Let's talk about the Green Bay Packers. They are finally back at Lambeau Field. Guys, 4 of the first 6 games that they played were on the road. I feel like I've done nothing but sit at Terminal E of Chicago O'Hare Airport for the past 6 weeks. But they will finally...
That's your mistake for going through Chicago.
Oh, so...
Never go through Chicago. Rookie mistake.
I buy the plane ticket that I can.
I had Detroit once in this time, and that was lovely. Everything else has been
I've
Chicago.
yet to have a nonstop flight.
I got a nonstop out to Denver.
Yeah,
that was nice. Not on the way back.
I have not. But that being said, we don't have to worry about it for the next 2 weeks because the Packers are back at home starting on Sunday with a noon kickoff versus the Minnesota Vikings. Elton Jenkins talked today about, you know, of course every game is important, but this is only their second division game of the season and how crucial that can be. Third. Oh, you're right. They played Detroit. I completely forgot about that. Their third division game of the season. So they're 1-1 in the division, have a chance to get above 500. But this Vikings team is one that seems to have been taking an upward trajectory while the Packers have been going the opposite way for the past few weeks. And so going to be sort of an interesting showdown on Sunday because, you know, kind of like rivalry games in the college and division games in the NFL, you never really know what could happen. But Spoon, I'll start with you. Just kind of your overarching view of this game as we sit 2 days out from kickoff.
Well, after 3 weeks, the Packers were 2-1 and the Vikings were 0-3. And now if you were to evaluate, you know, which team is moving forward and which team is moving back, it'd clearly be the Vikings are moving forward after their big win against San Francisco. The Packers don't have a signature win at all, and the Vikings do. And, you know, they're coming in here, and I think there will be a ton of Vikings fans here. I think that, you know, until the Packers get good again, it's going to be like that. They're going to be just like every other stadium. And, you know, the Vikings got a lot going for them. They're not particularly great here, but, you know, a lot of that had to do with Aaron Rodgers. And he's gone, and it's like, ding dong, the witch is gone, and now the Packers get to live like everybody else lived for how many, you know, seasons. And the Vikings have the best quarterback in the division. I mean, he's playing his butt off. Oh,
yeah,
by a million times.
Why?
I'd take Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is, wow. For one, he's just got a better arm, and he's more prolific than Jared Goff. Jared Goff's a little bit of a system quarterback. But Cousins, I don't know how close you watch that game, but he can take a hit. He'll stand in the pocket. He can deliver. I mean, he still does some bonehead things from time to time, but I've always liked him. He's always been like the butt of jokes, but I've always liked him. I think he's just a tough-nosed good quarterback.
Here's why I'm inclined to agree with you is because I think Jared Goff's playing at a very high level right now. But he also has a great offensive line and a hell of a running game that he can lean on, which are two great things for a quarterback. Kirk Cousins has neither of those things.
Right.
I mean, he's just – and to do what they did without Justin Jefferson, you can't say it's all Justin Jefferson.
Right.
You know?
Right.
For a long time here, I think we might have rightly so been wondering, but – You know, he's got other talent too, though. I think he can throw to T.J. Hockenson whenever he needs to make a play. He's a great security blanket, and Jordan Addison stepped up. But
exactly what Jordan Love needs is a security blanket. If he just wishes he had a Hockenson, right?
Absolutely, Hockenson, Kelsey, any type of tight, a Kittle. But yeah, I think that's a fascinating debate because I do think Jared Goff's playing at a very high level right now, and he was number 1 overall draft pick. But yeah, for what Kirk Cousins is doing without a great offensive line and with next to no running game, it's pretty impressive.
Overarching football question then, do you think the narrative that gets tagged on guys when they come out of college into the NFL sticks with them unless you're like a Tom Brady? Because, coming out of college, like you said, Jared Goff, number 1 pick, went to the Super Bowl pretty early on. And Kirk Cousins got drafted second quarterback on that Commanders team, like behind, who was RG3?
Fourth round pick.
Same
draft class. So he got drafted knowing he was going to be a backup and sort of has had to fight tooth and nail to get to this point. Do you think there's anything to just like, whatever people think of you, I've always heard this theory that whatever age celebrities become famous, that's how people will always think of them, regardless of how they change. Could you say maybe that for quarterbacks?
I think Kirk Cousins has come a long way. I think he was kind of people made fun of him because his record on primetime games was terrible. You know, his Monday night record was like 0-13 or something crazy like that. And he was on a lot of mediocre teams. You know, he just wasn't really on some great teams. And then the past couple of years with Justin Jefferson, they've had a good defense at times. I don't know if he can take you to the Super Bowl, but he can win some games. And the other thing is that with him, you know what helped him more than anything was that series they did on quarterbacks.
Yeah.
It like humanized him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all these people thought, he's just an idiot, and you found out the guy's a really interesting guy, and
it was fascinating.
Got a lot of personality. Yeah.
It was cool to watch. And I'm sure they did this on purpose. They kind of lucked out getting both Cousins and Mahomes. Mariota was an interesting storyline for how long he was on there.
They have 3 different levels of quarterback. Yeah,
but to have Mahomes and Cousins, who both had a really, really great season, but to see how they approach the game 2 completely different ways. I think there was one thing where it was such a juxtaposition because it was Mahomes at the gym working on how to turn his head like an owl. So he was working on something that would make him a physical freak. Mm-hmm. And then it flipped to Cousins sitting there watching that he had those things hooked up to his head, and then, he had to press the things, and it was training his brain to watch his peripheral more.
Right.
And so I think they both know their strengths and they both harp on those strengths. So it was an interesting juxtaposition just to kind of see how they approach the game differently.
Yeah.
And
right now the Vikings have the quarterback advantage against Green Bay, that's for sure. And it's been a while since they could say that. I mean, Cousins had some good years when Rodgers was hurt or wasn't great, but they come into the game with a distinct advantage at that position.
And they're going to do so without Justin Jefferson, who's out for a few more weeks. But to your point, Jordan Addison has kind of stepped up. I was talking to Jaire Alexander in the locker room on Wednesday, and he was talking about his back and what kind of recovery timeline that is, and that he set himself back by playing versus the Raiders. He's like, I probably should have just gone through one more week, but I had to play that game. And he kind of made a joke about this week, and he was like, I might have to play this week too, even though Jefferson's not playing. He's like, somebody needs to introduce Addison to the NFL.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this is a rookie kid that's already kind of making those waves. It's probably what Green Bay thought they were going to get with some of their young guys. How is this kid living up to the hype? And is it hyperbolic to say he can handle the load while Justin Jefferson, at the same level while Justin Jefferson is out?
I don't think so. I think he's a nice option for them, and I think he had a really nice breakout game. But, just like all rookie receivers, it gets tougher every time, a team sees you or the league sees you. They start to figure you out a little bit. He's got Hockenson helping him. Hockenson, a really good pass-catching tight end. Boy, is that critical, and a veteran one who can get down the middle of the field. I think that helps Addison a lot too. But, I don't know how great their passing game's going to be. It was great against the 49ers. Their offensive line blocked their butts off. I mean, they block like that every week, then they'll be a contender. But, I don't know what'll happen Sunday. I'm sure the Packers will have some way of taking Hockenson out of, or they better have something to take Hockenson out. I think it starts there.
Okay, that was about to be my question, Ryan. Is Hockenson your number one target that you've got to take out of this game?
Yeah, I think so. And, Jordan Addison might have something to do with that. But really, what I saw in that Monday night game is what the Packers desperately need right now is, okay, you don't have your best player. Packers haven't had Aaron Jones healthy since week 1. Someone else step up and make a play. Like someone else help your quarterback out. Step up, make a play. And it's just been weeks on end where we haven't really seen that. Among a lot of kind of information, evidence of that is the Packers' leading receiver is Romeo Doubs with 23 catches, 258 yards. Every team in the NFL has a leading receiver with more catches and more yards. That tells you all you need to know right there. I'm not absolving Jordan Love. He is part of the issue too. Everyone on this offense, including Elton Jenkins, with a holding penalty on a killer holding penalty. That's your best player, right? I mean, everyone on this offense is part of the problem right now. But a major part of the problem right now is no one is stepping up and helping the quarterback. No one's stepping up and making a play on a consistent basis the way that you lose Justin Jefferson on the Vikings offense. TJ Hockenson, you can get double-digit catches from him. Jordan Addison steps up and makes some game-changing, game-turning plays. That's what the Vikings, what they put forth is what the Packers need to do. They need to find someone that can do that. As far as stopping Hockenson, it's going to be a lot harder without Darnell Savage. I mean, they're thin at safety now, and it's kind of amazing that Darnell Savage, not even a year after being benched, is kind of become kind of an indispensable player on this back end of the defense. But that's the reality of their depth chart at safety is that his absence hurts, and they're going to have to figure out a way to cover one of the league's best tight ends without their top safety.
Do you trust Jonathan Owens to do it, Spoon?
No. Jonathan Owens is a box safety. That's what his reputation was in Houston, and that's probably what he is here. He can play cover 2, and probably be pretty solid, but he's not a guy you want going sideline to sideline or playing in a lot of man coverage. Rudy Ford's going to have to be that guy who plays deep, even though you like him around the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. He's pretty good around the line of scrimmage. I don't know what exactly they're going to do, but, I have a feeling that they could wind up just playing a ton of zone, dropping if Devondre Campbell comes back and Quay Walker's there, just dropping those guys back and playing a lot of zone and daring Minnesota to run the ball. And that's what teams are doing to the Packers right now. They're just zoning the crap out of them. They will not let Christian Watson get a one-on-one anywhere. And same with Dobbs. There's just always safeties over the top, or they're playing zone, and they don't really have the kind of catch and run guys who thrive in zones, So they better start running the ball, or it's just going to be the same thing over and over and over again.
Let me kick the hornet's nest, because I know this question is going to arise when people hear you say that about the defense should probably play zone versus the Vikings. That almost splintered this locker room after week 1 last year. The fact that they played so much zone versus Cousins and Jefferson. Is Jefferson the linchpin there of why you should maybe play man versus them versus zone? And without him and knowing that Hockenson might be their leading receiver, is that the difference in the scheme there?
Yeah, I mean, you're not with Jefferson, you have to stop him. you have to stop him. It doesn't matter what you play against Justin Jefferson. He can beat zone, he can beat man, But the rest of these guys, you're like, all right, beat us, see if you can beat us down the field. You probably can't if they're in zone. It's hard to do. Now Hockenson can split a two deep zone, and that would be a little bit of a problem. But I just think, you don't, especially if Jaire Alexander's not there. If Jaire Alexander is there, you slap him on Addison, and then you go and do whatever you want, defensively. But I still think you want to force them to run the ball.
I think with the way we've seen them tackle too, could you trust moving Douglas to wherever Hockenson is and sort of shadow him? Or is that too much of a risk?
Yeah, that would screw up your defense.
Okay.
I think. Maybe if he's, extended, but yeah, they're just going to have to, they'll have to zone him and, have somebody over the top on him and someone underneath.
Mm. Is that it's much easier said than done, right? Yeah, just one on top, one underneath.
Well, if you have Jaire Alexander, then it makes it easier. You can double somewhere else, I mean, they doubled Russell Douglas when Jaire was there, took on Devontae Adams most of the game, and they put a safety over the top, and they pretty much shut him down. So that's the one thing about having Jaire Alexander around.
Ryan, to Spoon's point, Jaire Alexander makes a huge difference. Do you have to shift anything that you do knowing that Darnell Savage won't be out there now?
Well, I think Rudy Ford has even more coverage responsibilities because that's, Darnell Savage, he wasn't drafted in the first round to be a thumper. He was drafted because of his speed on the back end, and he struggled with that, tracking deep balls and such. But I think what you've seen from Rudy Ford is, he's made more plays on the ball than anybody at safety the last 2 years. So you're going to see him be the primary cover guy. You're going to see Jonathan Owens be the primary box guy. And yeah, you're probably going to see quite a bit of zone. You're probably going to see Rudy Ford over the top of Jordan Addison quite a bit when he's not responsible for T.J. Hockenson. I think Devondre Campbell coming back, his length, and his reads, his veteran savvy, his athleticism as a whole. We'll see how that ankle is. I think that helps. That's a big return for them because if you compare the way Quay Walker's been playing this season, Devondre Campbell, that's a pretty good core on the second level, and that'll help with the coverage as well. I think Devondre Campbell's the type that you don't want to put him against T.J. Hockenson all game, but he's the type that you can have some coverage snaps against a top tight end like that. So, depending on the ankle. So, yeah, I think that you're going to see some changes, but not a drastic overhaul of the defense.
Quay Walker could really factor into that too, especially if Hockenson is going to be their guy this game.
Let's face it, neither of them can cover him one-on-one. Nobody can really.
Yeah.
Walker's, of course, a great athlete, and Campbell is, his signature was he was pretty good in man coverage, but it's asking a lot to cover a guy all game long and try to take him away. So they're going to have some sort of system to take away Hockenson.
Let's flip to the other side of the ball. Elton Jenkins was asked today, what do you do or how do you stop this Vikings rushing or blitzing attack? And his answer was 2 words. You want to take a guess at what it was?
I heard him say Zach Tom.
Zach Tom. That was his answer. Zach Tom. That's how you stop him. That's putting a lot of responsibility on one guy.
I thought it was going to be blocked better.
No, I guess he thinks Zach Tom's all.
Well, I think he asked about Danielle Hunter, or was he asked about the whole Vikings? He might have been asked about Hunter, wasn't he? No?
I think he was asked about everyone.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, he's going to – Hunter is going to be his main assignment, but, yeah, he's going to have to be ready for that. They're going to have to be really, really together because, Brian Flores – everyone's expecting him to blitz like mad. That's what he did against the 49ers, and it screwed up Brock Purdy.
And we've seen it work against Jordan Love before.
Yeah, and they've blitzed other young quarterbacks too, and it's messed them up. So I expect them to come after Love, but I also expect them to show a lot of, bailouts too, like come up and then try to confuse them by bailing out of those things. To me, the answer is Christian Watson. Hit Christian Watson deep on,
very first
man
play?
coverage kind of thing. Yeah, right, exactly. And that'll back him off, but it's easier said than done.
Yeah, especially when we're talking about this offense's deep ball. Much easier.
Right,
said than done.
Exactly. Maybe you have to hit him on a slant or something where he takes it all the way and something like that. You have to hit a couple of big plays to back them off.
Ryan, your opinion? Is Zach Tom the answer?
Yeah, I think he's played all right. Still wouldn't mind seeing Zach Tom at center. And I think every facet of this offense is struggling, including the offensive line. And when you have guys struggling, playmakers, pass catchers, why not try to get Daunting Wicks more involved? I know Matt LaFleur talked about it Monday, but actually doing it, Matt LaFleur's the play caller, so he's got something to do with getting Daunting Wicks more involved. Try to find someone that can make plays for the quarterback more consistently. Offensive line, they've struggled. Why not try to reconfigure the lineup? They put a second-round tender on Josh Nijman this spring and then buried him on the sideline. Try to find something because this offense, it's been putrid. And when it's this bad, you kind of have to tinker with some stuff. You can't just let it continue to be this bad. So whatever that is. But Zach Tom's not been the problem. Zach Tom's one of their best offensive linemen. He should be on the field in any capacity. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting test.
Sounds like his teammates think he's the answer.
Another thing with that line is they got a bunch of leg injuries, and that seems to be hindering him. Elton Jenkins has not been himself the last 2 weeks. He's getting beat on plays that he never got beat in the past, and I got to think he's still not back from the knee injury. Runyon's still playing on one ankle. That stuff lingers, and then now Myers is on one ankle, and that's tough to you need. And then you have a first-year starter at left tackle, so there's just not enough solid play all the way across to make up for it. And boy, think about it, if they had Bakhtiari, how much better. We probably all took. I won't say took him for granted. I mean, everybody knew how good he was, but he just changes everything. You can send so many more guys out. You don't have to keep 2 tight ends in every time like they do. It changes the way you can play the game.
And he was good on one knee too.
Yeah,
he was playing. He was playing well, even with all the medical stuff the past couple of years. When he was out there, he was playing well, which is why the Packers gave him the restructure bonus. I mean, they liked what they saw on film and thought that everything was behind him, and it wasn't. But that's the problem. Is even when he was playing on one leg, if he was out there, he's playing well.
There was an interesting conversation that arose while talking to Zach Tom today, so I want to pose the question to you two as well. For so long, it's just been understood that the left tackle would be taking on the best pass rusher. Does it feel like that has shifted more to right tackle now?
It's not the same. You have a lot of people who come from the right tackle now. Nick Bosa rushes from the left side quite a bit. Rashawn Gary rushes from the left side. Hutchinson,
which is right on the offense.
Yeah, Hutchinson rushes from the left side. Crosby, trying to remember where he lined up a lot. I think he lined up over Tom, or did he? I can't remember. They moved him around
from the right side.
Yeah, so I don't think it's like it used to be blind side. That's you put your best pass rusher blind side. For some reason, that's changed. I don't really know why. It's a good question, though.
I think for a while now, the old adage that your left side, your left tackle's your athletic kind of Lamborghini type that is got to be proficient in pass blocking, and your right tackle's your big rugged kind of pickup truck that has got to be a road grader in the run game. That went out the window years ago. You need two guys that really can do it all, but especially this is a passing league. You need bookend tackles that can pass block. Left or right side doesn't matter. Both tackles need to be able to hold up in the pass pro game. So I think that's something that changed. I don't know. You probably know better than me. That changed years ago. I don't know how many years ago.
I don't know when it changed. Just like all of a
not
sudden
new.
changed.
Yeah.
Forever, left tackles are the highest paid guys in the league.
Do you think it has, and this may be a naive question, so tell me if so, do you think it has anything to do with the fact that blindside or rushing from the blind side is not as important anymore because guys, for the most part, are not pure pocket passers.
Right.
They might go out on a boot. They might move the pocket.
Yes. And the guy, you almost want your best pass rusher to face him, to see,
to watch his eyes,
to watch him, so and play contained. So yeah, I think that's got a lot to do with it.
Well, I think too, you're seeing, and this is again, it's not new. This has been a while now, but you're seeing a lot of defenses really emphasize having bookend rushers. Mm-hmm. Being able to rush from both edges and not just over the left tackle. It's about having the bookends. And when you are going up against defenses every week that are emphasizing that, then you better be able to hold up on both the left and right tackle as pass blockers because you're going against two. It's not just one.
Another subject that came up this week, and Spoon and I started talking about this already, but I want to kind of bring it to the discussion table here, has this offense, for an offense that features a lot of first and second year guys, is it maybe still too complex for them at this time and they're just going to have to go through these growing pains to learn it, or has it been simplified enough that the plays are there for them to make, it's just the execution?
I think it's kind of a disconnection, just because things aren't. You know how we used to, chide him for it. Rodgers would get all, can I say pissy on the
yes, you can.
on the podcast, when someone did something wrong, wasn't exactly the right route and stuff. And there is something to that where, you hold these guys to the standard. But he was also dealing with a lot of veterans. It was usually like one rookie or something like that would step out of line. Now you got three young guys who sometimes run to the same place or don't run their route quite exactly like it's designed. I think they do miss having like a guy that he can just throw to. One guy that Jordan Love just goes, this guy's not in the wrong place. I'm finding him. Yeah. I'm finding this guy. I went back for my column this week, and I was just curious to see who, just to remind myself who Favre and Rodgers had around them when they started. And Rodgers had Chad Clifton and Mark Tauscher in their 8th years at the two tackle spots. He had Greg Jennings and Donald Driver. Jermichael Finley was a rookie. He had Donald Lee, who was a veteran tight end. Favre had Sterling Sharp. I mean, that's all Favre did was throw to Sterling Sharp. He was like, 1-2 sharp, 1-2 sharp. It was, he just, anytime he got in trouble, he had him. But he had, a burgeoning tight end in Jackie Harris, and he had a blocking tight end in Ed West. He didn't have any running backs, but, he had guys who he could count on when all hell broke loose. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Jordan Love has that. I can't point to one guy where he can go, hell or high water, I'm throwing to this guy.
Is that talent or youth? Is the issue there talent or youth?
Youth, I think. I mean, I still think Christian Watson's going to be a good player. I still think Romeo Doubs. Mm-hmm. I think Jaden Reed's going to be a really good player. But Dontavian Wicks is starting to turn out to be, maybe one of the more reliable guys. But it's just not the same, It's not the same as having Devontae Adams where, okay, he runs his route and he sees Love as, under pressure and he moves to exactly the right spot. Or he, bodies the corner so that he gives Love a place to throw back shoulder or something like that. And I just don't see that with those other guys.
I almost wonder, too, if, like, some of the guys in the locker room are trying to remind themselves of that because they want to be accountable, to, of course, but maybe also need to give themselves a little grace. Because I was talking to Romeo Dobbs about this today, and he said, you know, I went back and looked. When LaFleur got here and implemented this system, Rodgers had Devontae Adams already. He had, you know, Cobb here and there. He was coming and going. He said the youngest guy Rodgers had was Allen. And, you know, and then he was talking about stuff that he's having to do and that Christian is having to do to sort of bring along Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks. And I was like, Rome, do you realize the stuff you're saying? In 31 other locker rooms, you would still be in their position. You would still be the guy that's sort of learning, and you're having to take on that Randall Cobb role now.
Yeah, you have to grow up. Well, yeah, they've had to grow up. And I thought it was a good idea when Gutekunst went this way. I was like, you know, you don't have to have like a Randall Cobb. You know, just have some old guy there who doesn't do much for you, but he helps your locker room. And I thought Musgrave was going to kind of blossom, and it didn't happen. They're wrong. They were wrong. Going young has not been great.
At least wrong for 2023.
Yeah, yes. Well, but they're not going to be young next year, you know. So for right now, I mean, That's went into this year.
It might work out next year having the same group of guys with another year under their belt.
Yeah.
If you're saying in 2023, this was the wrong decision.
It was the wrong decision to go with a bunch of rookies and second-year players. And I think, you know, I mean, I still think he can add someone. I think he could, if I were him, I'd keep, you know, looking at the waiver wire trade. You don't have to add like a great player, but you got to add some veteran guy, especially a tight end. And that, you know, you got Musgrave who's hurt. You've got Watson who has a hard time get healthy. You know, it wouldn't hurt to add a little bit of veteran help. And the main reason I'll shut up is, that's what my mom used to say, and then I'll shut up, is you can't let Jordan Love just crash this year. You know, it's great to say, let him go 4-13 and they'll get a good draft pick. But he'll go into next year and everybody will be questioning him. And they'll be like, you need to find another quarterback. I mean, there'll be so much external pressure. And they need to, like finish strong this year so that they got something going into the next year. Because, you know, your windows aren't that great to win. And so, you know, you got to get it going right away.
Not letting him crash or letting him crash going 4-13, getting a good draft pick, and then being like, okay, well, we can still build around him. That's what went wrong with Justin Fields, in my opinion.
Yes, right. And how many people will be all over? Well, you got to draft kid from North Carolina or Phoenix.
Notre
I mean, they
Dame,
won't get
yeah.
Caleb Williams, but you know what I mean? I mean, people be asking them to draft a quarterback. And I think you can hurt a guy if you're not competitive the first year.
I 1,000% agree. It's such a mental thing with a young quarterback. Ryan, do you think are we giving Jordan Love too much leeway here? Or is it fair to say, like, there's got to be some of these other pieces around him?
Oh, I don't know. I see it differently. And I don't expect everyone to agree with me, but I think that the moment that Brian Gutekunst exited the draft and looked at his depth chart and realized it's all second-year and rookie receivers, it's a first-year starting quarterback, I think that I don't think where they're at right now surprises him. I've got to think that he had an expectation that it was going to be rough. If you look around the league, there's so many examples. I mean, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Tua, all guys that struggled their first 2 years. Their first 2 years, each of those guys struggled, and Jalen Hurts only had 4 starts as a rookie. But each of those guys struggled their first 2 years, and in year 3, the Buffalo Bills trade for Stephon Diggs. In year 3, the Philadelphia Eagles trade for A.J. Brown. And in year 3, the Miami Dolphins trade for Tyreek Hill. And it wasn't until then that all 3 of those guys became who they are. Josh Allen, third year, becomes a Pro Bowler for the first time. Same with Jalen Hurts. Tua wasn't a Pro Bowler last year, but his passer rating went from 90.1 his second season as a starter to 105.5 with Tyreek Hill. Each of those guys that happened. I think that the path that Brian Gutekunst set this franchise on was a long-term plan, with the hope being that the patience would pay off and that giving Jordan Love and this young nucleus of receiving talent a chance to grow together would pay dividends for not just 2024, but really 2025. That over the long haul, they would all grow up together. And if that's the case, 2023, I've got to think that the Packers look at it as, in a lot of ways, as a trial run, because you're just too. It's not like they're just young at quarterback or just young at receiver. They're young at both, and throughout the league, when you're young at both, you've got to have some type of staple, as Matt LaFleur says, to hang your hat on, and they don't have that. I was watching in the Denver press box when I was waiting for the podcast. I was watching the Sunday Night Football game, Dolphins versus Eagles, and anytime Hurts needs to make a play, he can just throw to A.J. Brown. Anytime Tua needs to make a play, he can just throw to Tyreek Hill. Then you go across the league. The Kansas City Chiefs have whittled their offense away. I mean, when you lose Tyreek Hill in free agency, you're losing a lot. But anytime Patrick Mahomes needs to make a play, he's got Travis Kelce. Matthew Stafford has Cooper Kupp. Kirk Cousins has Justin Jefferson. Joe Burrow has Jamar Chase. Every quarterback Justin Herbert has Keenan Allen. Every top quarterback in the league is paired with a top receiver. Jordan Love doesn't have a top receiver right now. He's thrown to only guys that are developing. I have no idea if in 2 years Jordan Love, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, if they'll be top players at their position or not. But they're not expected to be after 6 games. That was never going to happen. So I think in a lot of ways 2023 is a trial run for these guys to actually get to know each other, because they didn't know each other. I mean, they haven't really played together other than these 6 games. So get to know each other, try to build. I don't think they're going to have their answer in 2023. It'd be so much easier if they had Devontae Adams, because then if this is who Jordan Love is with a top receiver in this league, that's an indictment. That's a problem. But they don't have that. So without having that, there's no hardened proof or evidence that their plan's not going to work. There's no proof it is going to work. It's going to take time.
Let me just add one thing. Mm-hmm. The problem they face is that Jordan Love's in his 4th year.
I was just about to say.
Those other guys are rookies, and so they got time. They don't have time on their hands with him. They're going to have to make a decision soon on whether he's the guy and whether to pay him. So that's why I think, wasting the season is not the best idea, because I don't think you're going to get a good view of who Jordan Love is unless you put some guys around him.
If they give this, I think there's a reason why they extended him 2 years, and part of that obviously was guaranteeing the 5th year of his rookie deal. But if they give this through the end of 2024 and this is what it looks like, then at that point you're tanking. You're in the market for a quarterback. This is a 2-year window that they have, and I think that the expectation is that by sometime during the 2024 season, they're going to know one way or the other. They need to know by then. And if you don't know by then you're in the market for a quarterback again. But it just looks like when they set the pieces on the table, they were hoping that over the long term, over these 2 years, that they can grow together.
That's exactly what I was going to say, though. I was going to make that, just play devil's advocate. Jordan Love's year 3 would be his year 6. You're going to have to pay him before then. And so it's not an indictment necessarily on Jordan Love and where he's at in his growth, more so maybe an indictment on the front office that they've got 2 plans that are working in opposition of each other.
Yeah. And this we started out, you started out asking about, what's Jordan Love's role in this whole thing. Let's not completely excuse him, because he's not been what they hoped he would be to this point. You can still see the guy's got arm talent. You can still see he doesn't get flustered. He can run. He probably should run more than he does. But to win, to be a franchise quarterback, you got to win in the 4th quarter, and he's
He's only done that one time.
1-3 in the fourth quarter. So, yeah.
If every game was the third quarter, they'd be great.
Oh, yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah. And Romeo Dobbs made that comment yesterday. He was like, we've clearly shown that we can do it. We can put up 17 in the third quarter. Why aren't we putting up 17 in the first half?
Is it because, opposing defenses are laughing so hard at them from the first half, in the locker room, they're
taking a
blowing
break.
Balloons,
they're taking
and
bathroom breaks
party
in the third
favors. Yeah. Oh man, I thought this team might be able to cross the 50-yard line.
Your idea of an NFL locker room is interesting, Spoon. Which ones have you been in? I know that we've got coaches coming up here soon, but one last thing. I know this was posed in the Milwaukee Journal, Sentinel, and Green Bay Press Gazette this week, but I wanted to talk about it here on the podcast as well because I might actually want to change my answer. The trade deadline is Tuesday. Do you think the Packers should make a move before then? And if so, who do you think they should go with? Feel free to change your answer from what we put in the paper because I'm going to change mine.
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Yeah, I do think they should do it, but it's got to be the right deal. It doesn't. Just don't do it to do it. If they could do DeAndre Hopkins, I think that would be a great addition for them.
I like that.
It's low cost. His they restructured his contract, so he had already been paid most of his salary. It would cost them $766,000 this year.
They can find that in the couch.
Yeah, and next year is good too. So that would be a deal I would pursue in a big way.
I like that.
That's the deal I would try for.
Ryan, you looking something up, or do you want to go ahead and go?
No, well, the only issue maybe with DeAndre Hopkins is he's 31. But for me, and it's intriguing, but for me, I look at what's the right deal. What the Chicago Bears did last year getting DJ Moore, who was only 26 this season, that's the right deal because I would want someone that fits into the long-term plan, that has the youth and the proven track record. And that's going to cost some the Chicago Bears gave up the number one pick in the draft for DJ Moore.
Yeah.
But anything short of that, I don't. I don't think they just need some middling guy to come in and eat snaps that to me is a detour from the plan that they put in place. And it's never good to detour. Once you're down a path, you gotta play the process out. So it very much is dependent on, 2 second-round picks to get Devontae Adams back. That's never going to happen. But, I mean, if
I thought
the Raiders don't need him, so.
I thought that would have been a good idea up until he started really going deep into how he needs the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And that would not be good here. They don't need that here.
The only thing is it gives Jordan Love that guy you can throw to any time you need to play because he doesn't have that right now.
It does, but then you're not growing the other guys at the same time. Mm-hmm. I mean, Devontae Adams is a great guy. He is a great guy, and he was great in the locker room, and he was great with the other receivers, but he wants the damn ball. He does. Mm-hmm. I mean, even, when Cobb was around.
14 targets a game here.
Yeah, and that's just something I would have to think about with him.
I originally said, especially considering the Savage injury, maybe go after Budda Baker because he had made it clear before the season he wanted to be traded. That's an expensive contract to take on, though.
Big contract.
It's like 4 years, $59 million, something like that. So that one would be pretty tough. The Cardinals are kind of in the same position as the Packers, where they're trying to decide, do we make a run or do we tank? And so, do they trade somebody away? Before he got hurt, I would have maybe gone after Zach Ertz.
Yeah. He's the kind of guy who you could add, and he would be good. That'd be an easy
contract to take on.
Yeah.
He'd be a great receiver. They probably need a veteran tight end there.
Downside was he's coming off an ACL,
right.
and, now he's on IR, so that's not going to happen.
Did the Giants want to hold on to Darren Waller? Is that a call you make? And then I saw something on ESPN this morning. Is Cole Kmet a possibility to be traded?
Not to the Packers.
No. That's a very good point.
If he were being traded, heck yeah, that would be a big one for the Packers. Baker and Justin Simmons has been mentioned as a trade possibility. Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. I like Cortland Sutton. Big, strong. I don't know what he's like in the locker room, but
I'm tempted to say I'm not trading for safety, but here's why I might. What if they don't re-sign Darnell Savage?
Well, you wouldn't if you made that trade. You would just bye-bye Darnell Savage.
Then you would, but they might not anyway, right? I mean, we don't know.
Right.
If you don't re-sign Darnell Savage, gosh, you got so much to do on this team already, and then you've got 2 safeties you got to add because they already got to add 1. Then you got to add 2. That I don't know if they want to be in a position where they got left tackle, probably another offensive lineman. Who knows at running back. The defensive side, I don't know if you want to add needing 2 safeties this offseason to the list. So if there's the right safety on the trade block, it kind of helps you for next offseason.
The other part I was thinking about is, okay, so you add Justin Simmons, and then they still stink because, Joe Barry doesn't have the system to really do it. And you're like, well, why did I waste doing that? I mean, how many first-round picks can you put on one defense before it should be the best defense in the NFL? Yeah. So maybe adding to defense isn't the way to go. You know?
I think the defense could be fine. We'll just, we'll see. But, safety's kind of the biggest question mark there. Spoon and I did see a couple of the guys in the locker room today. It was interesting. It was T.J. Slayton, Telfort, and Brenton Cox spending a lot of time going over one play.
Yeah. And
from practice.
T.J. Slayton has become kind of a leader. You can kind of see it on the field. And, for a guy who was really roundly downgraded because he didn't hustle enough in college, he's turned out to be a pretty good player for them.
Yeah. And it was, if you're the Packers, that's got to be encouraging to see, a guy like Slayton kind of pulling Cox aside, and Telfort was there helping him, being like, this is what you did, this is what we need you to do, and this is why. And this was the most interesting part of their conversation that I was listening to. This is why we need you to do it.
Yeah.
Not even just this is what you do. This is why you do it.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch that.
I know we've got coaches coming up, so we're going to land this plane here. If you've got anything you want to use your final 60 seconds for, go ahead, Ryan.
I'm good.
You want to make a pitch for Craig Counsell to become the Mets?
Oh, no, that's already happening. We all know that's already
happening. That's a done deal. Huh?
Yeah. Why else? I mean, that writing's been on the wall there forever. Why else interview if you're not going to manage? And if any of you
leverage
have they're going to lose that game. The Brewers are going to lose that game.
That's true. Yeah, the Mets are.
If any of you have an option in your career to stay with your same profession, take a different job, and just double your salary, who doesn't do that?
I'd dump all of you for double my salary.
Yeah. We all dump each other. Yeah, double your salary, do what you're doing right now. Every single person does that.
The Brewers have till October 31st to extend an offer.
Until his contract expires.
Which is October 31st. Yeah. Spoon, final 60 seconds.
What did you guys think of the Talking Heads on Stephen Colbert last night?
Yeah, I definitely watched that.
You guys catch that?
No. I gotta admit I missed it.
It was the reunion of the Talking Heads. It was the greatest thing. Now, they looked really old. That kind of was shocked me a little bit. They are really old, yeah. But it was really fun. And bloggers, we are going to be having some Talking Head contest about lyrics.
Did they sing
on Sunday? No,
I knew you said
Stephen Colbert tried to get them. He's like, "Hey, we got a bunch of guitars and drum sets over here," and then he was like, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that," because they've been at odds for like 20 years, and
they were in the same room together. That's progress.
When you said Talking Heads, I thought you were going to say like Stephen A. Smith or something.
Right?
Oh no, different. This is the original Talking Heads.
I remember it ever since he brought it up because everyone was so disappointed in Ryan and I that we didn't know what he was talking about.
Yes, they are. You're going to hear it on Twitter again.
I forgot about this.
The biggest discourse this podcast has ever had.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to go ahead and shut things down here. We do have some more coverage to get ready for this kickoff game, or before kickoff. So stay tuned to PackersNews.com as we get ready for the Packers versus the Vikings first iteration of the 2023 season. Spoon will have his Talking Heads live blog going on. It'll happen to take place during the Packers game versus the Vikings, so make sure you're on that as well Sunday. And then we will have full wrap-up coverage for you as well after that game. Guys, thanks so much. This has been the Green 19 podcast from JS Online at PackersNews.com.